Welcome everyone to this video on the Leo full moon. I'm here with Erik Roth. So excited to do this with you, Erik. It's been a while since we've come together to create a video. And we're
Yes.
looking at, yes, we're looking at the Leo full moon. It's squared by Uranus. It is epic and it's going beyond the known. And then we're going to be also looking at events that are taking us up to the next full moon in March. And we'll be doing another video on that. So be sure to stay tuned because that is an epic total lunar eclipse that's going, and we'll show a little bit about where it's going to be visible, but definitely visible over the entire United States where we live. So we're excited. And so anyway, the this full moon is giving us the opportunity to open up our awareness to things beyond what we have previously imagined. So, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do feel like this is going to be a really powerful full moon, and even Mercury will be in conjunction with the sun at the time of, or within a couple of degrees anyway, at the time of the full moon. So it's really exciting to experience, and yes, leading this up to the eclipse. So nothing else to share.
Yay. So, next slide. It's not moving. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's February 12th, 2025, 6:53 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That means it's 5:53 a.m. Pacific Time and 8:53 a.m. Eastern Time when the exact full moon is happening. And you, as you can see here, Uranus, you see the red lines, the sun and the moon opposite each other, and then Uranus square the sun and the moon in a pretty exact square to this full moon. So it is electrifying the energy. And one of the things I like to think of is that the sun and the moon, especially at a full moon, is transmitting directly to the earth. So with Uranus here helping to energize this full moon, it's like we're electrifying the earth with powerful life force energy, enlivening our sense of what is possible beyond what is known. So disrupting the known, enlivening the unknown. And this is, I mean, I think we do live in a culture where we kind of feel like we want to know and we want to be in the know. And we're kind of sometimes stuck there. I think this full moon is going to electrify us in a way that perhaps there's, and I feel like it's already happening in a lot of ways. Like so many things
Mhm.
that we couldn't have possibly imagined are happening already. Some maybe not in great ways, but others in more subtle ways, as this is going to really up-level the vibration of the Earth, the magnetic field of the Earth. That's how I feel about it anyway. So, what you got, Erik?
Yeah, and it's as you can see here, there's also a trine that you've outlined on your slide here between Mars and Saturn, and in that trine we do have Mars just within a degree of this. Now they're not exactly. There's a slide that we share that there's three. This is going to be one of three trines that are happening between Mars and Saturn, and this is a water trine, so it really emphasizes the feeling function, compassion, and empathy. But then you've got these two planets which don't normally operate on that frequency by themselves, so it's an interesting contrast that's happening here. But anytime we have trines, there's usually kind of more of a easy flow of energy, so it's not necessarily like if that was a square, that would be a little more tense and stressful in the sense of the energy output. But in this case, there's more of an easy flow. So this is adding to the day of the eclipse.
And because Uranus is square, the sun and the moon,
Yes.
it is adding to the intensity of what's happening and is possible. So, yeah, let's go to the next one. So this is showing how the moon for in many time zones and depending on your horizon line will be setting around the time of or early morning. So this is showing for Tucson, Arizona, but 6:53 a.m. the moon getting ready to set. And it's very close to a star called Regulus. We're going to share more about that star in a moment. And of course, where you see the moon that morning will depend on your time zone and your horizon line. But this is just to kind of give you an idea of at the exact full moon, how close it is to this magical star, Regulus.
Mm, indeed. And we just mentioned Uranus squaring the full moon. So this Uranus will be at 23 Taurus at the time of the full moon, activating unexpected and predictable events, epiphanies, breakthroughs that are novel. There's a certain like thing where it's, we have a foundation, we build a foundation, it might go stagnant. And certainly we've been in recent history for humanity several years where we've busted open foundations and one after another, and this is another like symbol of 2025 that is helping to kind of crack things open for humanity as well. So and this is, of course, Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, so it creates an alchemy, cultivating new expressions of beauty, vision, comforts in the world. And this can also stimulate new technologies and create a greater understanding of our role for the future. And it's helpful in illuminating our relationship with the earth and taking in a more colorful and creative approach to finding resolutions. So Taurus has a strong artistic and creative vibe, and its relationship to the earth is very strong. And so, in order for it to thrive in the beauty and the comfort of the planet, there's got to be a planet for it to thrive on. So that's part of, I feel like, our comforts and pleasures, and what are we taking for granted, what are we sacrificing to have more on the material level, and what maybe new forms of technology and ideas and foundational energies can come through for us to have a more healthy relationship with that. And so this might stimulate some of that energy in this full moon that we're going to be experiencing here.
We can focus our attention on that, and then it's more likely to happen if we're focusing our attention on that intent. And also, if we think about one of the things I know that I've been very aware of is there's a lot of information out there about the geomagnetic field of the Earth and the expansion of ley lines and how much more energy and things are shifting in the Earth's geomagnetic electric field. I guess I should say that. And then we have this full moon that is going to be adding to all of that. Very exciting. So I think it's really important for us to just stay aware and see what's coming through. And is what you believe really true, or is what you believe only happening because you believe it? And if you change that belief, then what would happen? I think that's our.
Yes, that's a great statement. Thank you. All right, out of balance Mars, trine
Yeah.
Saturn.
So as Erik mentioned earlier, showing the trine between Mars and Saturn on that chart. So Mars is out of bounds. It has been out of bounds since early December. It stays out of bounds until April 6th. It's going to be 26 degrees, almost 27 degrees north out of bounds at the time of this full moon. So very amazing to have this added wild card factor to this full moon. So Mars, any planet out of bounds is not going to be behaving in their normal way because they're outside the boundaries of ordinary reality, our everyday reality. And the first Mars trine, Saturn trine, was September 29th. They were at 14 Cancer Pisces. And 14 Cancer happens to be the degree of where Sirius is located. And Erik and I did this amazing, we've done two amazing classes, actually, one on the Bohemian stars and focusing on Sirius because it's one of the magical stars of the ancient alchemists. And also, we did one on the stellar gateways, and Sirius is one of the main stars of the winter triangle that we focused on.
Yes.
Yeah. So, whoa. So Mars was such close alignment with Sirius at the first Mars Saturn trine, bringing in that energy of the magical energy of Sirius. Now, what's interesting is the last trine is at 24 Cancer Pisces, almost 25, but it's not, so it's 10 degrees away from Sirius. It's not as close, but the moon will be at 14, almost 15 degrees Cancer, but very aligned with Sirius. So really helping to transmit that energy to the Earth, the of that magical star. And then February 9th will be the exact Saturn-Mars trine or Mars-Saturn trine. Mars is retrograde until the 18th, I think, of
The
February.
23rd of February.
23rd of February. Yeah. Something was happening on the 18th. Anyway, but they are still within less than a degree of each other at the time of the full moon. And so another wild card factor, even though what you were saying, Eric, is true, it's like we could say the calming, more gentle flow of a trine, especially a water trine at this time of this amazing full moon. But then Mars is out of bounds, so we don't know what's going to happen. It's a wild card. It's a wild card factor. So, yeah. Um, anything you want to
So
add?
it's, yeah, just to explain for everybody here briefly what out of bounds is.
Oh yeah, good idea. You want me to, or do you want
Oh
to?
yeah, I was asking you to just as
Okay. Right.
just
So
a quick
the
hit.
sun rises and sets on the horizon, so many degrees north and so many degrees south of east or north or west. You know, the sun can only go so many degrees east, north of east or south of east or west. Um, in a year. And when it's the furthest north, it's usually in the northern hemisphere, it's the June solstice, summer solstice. In the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite season. And then it can go at the December solstice, it can go so far. Planets can go out past that. So we consider where the sun can rise and set on the horizon as representing our um, normal reality or our everyday reality. And then when the
Mhm.
planets go out beyond that, they're operating outside of that ordinary reality. And so that's why the out of bounds, any out of bounds planet is considered a wild card factor because it's operating outside of the norm of what we consider.
Right. It's getting different kinds of instructions being out of bounds.
Yeah. Yep. So new things can come in at that. So here we have at this full moon, we have this out of bounds Mars. It's also retrograde, which is not its typical way of being. It only goes retrograde every couple of years. So that's a rare factor as well. And then and to have a retrograde Mars out of bounds for so long, also a rare factor. So it's like the universe is really trying to tell us that something new, something different, something that we maybe haven't thought about before. So it's again be going beyond the known and being able to perhaps see into the unknown in ways that we haven't before.
Right, right, exactly. And Mars will stay out of bounds until April 6th, and it won't go retrograde again until January 2027. So, yeah, this is a very rare time.
Yeah. So yeah, thinking about Mars retrograde in Cancer also, it's like how is the sacred masculine taking a deeper dive into the essence of the Cancer mystery, which is how do we create a safe space for people to be who they truly are, instead of what we've had in the patriarchal culture where it hasn't been safe for men or women to really be who they are. So
True.
and then with this trying to Saturn, it's like Saturn's there to help. How are we going to create this? How are we going to make this come into form? Um, Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, just to get a little, a quick info about the archetypal essence of the sign of Leo, um, from this perspective of looking at it on a deeper level. Leo is radical, radiant, and about healthy self love at its core. It's highly creative and visionary and bold, courageous, confident, charismatic, magnetic. It's known also for being assertive and bringing self to greater visibility in the world. It's sort of this embodiment of creativity or the creatrix. We can look at it archetypally as this king, queen, or leader, or a bold corporate visionary, a brilliant coach of a team, or an activist leader, shining light into the shadows so that we all see the light and reveal what is in the dark. So it's definitely a sign that could move humanity because it is so essentially big and bold and bright in its expression to the world. So it's about connecting into that energy for us, for humanity, and looking at it from a perspective of not from really developing a more healthy relationship with ourselves, but also with humanity itself. And certain signs can be looked at as more quote selfish, but it's not so much about that. It's about the contribution that each of these signs make. And yes, it's comes from the self. It serves the self in a way, but in that serving of the self, it serves community, it serves humanity too, by helping lead it to a brighter future, something that can inspire others and help them become also confident and creative in their own life. So this is what a healthy visionary or a leader or king or queen can do for other people. Um, the opposite of that would be where they're doing it only for themselves and inspiring more polarization and more of the sort of the toxic energy that is quite rampant around the world here, unfortunately. So yeah, and this image kind of captures it in a bold way. Um, having a visionary come through and being able to see the greater essence and connection with the universe and to inspire others to come forth and it's not just only about them but also spreading the love out to the rest of the world.
I love how it looks like she's in her sovereignty. And I think that's what Leo, when it's healthy, is about being in its own sovereignty and that place of healthy self-love, so it can show up and shine and inspire others to do the same. It's like it doesn't have to outshine everybody. The shadow side of Leo does. And, so
Right.
we can see that very narcissistic expression, that is the shadow side of Leo. But when Leo's really healthy, it's really about showing up and shining in great self-love, self-approval, self-acceptance, the self thing, self-confidence, all those self aspects, and doing it in such a way that it can inspire others to also step up and do that as well. And that's really the intent or the essence of Leo. So this Leo full moon, and with the Uranian aspect to it, is disrupting all the old ways that we haven't. We've lived in a culture that really has said self-love is bad. That's selfish, as you were saying, Erik, selfish.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
it's really how do we serve our greater soul's intent through loving who we are and really appreciating ourselves and not being so hard on ourselves and not beating ourselves up all the time, which we've probably all done at some point. And so this is inspiring us to recognize when we might be doing that and then maybe come back to how can we cultivate healthy self-love.
indeed, indeed. Well said. All right, let's
So
talk about
on the night
Regulus.
of February 12th, so we looked at the morning when the moon was setting, and this is now later in the day, 12-ish hours later, the moon is rising over the horizon. And that, of course, it depends. If you have mountains, and it'll be rising a little later. If you have a low horizon line, it might be coming up sooner. But what's fascinating about it is how close it's coming up with Regulus. The moon is rising essentially with Regulus. And this is one of the four royal stars of the ancients. It's also one of the Bohemian stars, similar to Sirius that we talked about earlier. And back in 2011, the end of November 2011, this star moved, we could say the seasonal sign of Virgo moved over the star. The star didn't move. Uh, And it started a 2,160-year process of being overlaid by Virgo. And it's still at the 0 degree point because it's only moving 1 degree every 72 years. So it's very, very early on in the 0 degree mark. And here we are with the amazing moon rising and also then transmitting from Regulus, the heart star of the lion. And how are we connected
Yes.
to our heart, which is also the whole thing about Leo. Now, it's in Virgo. So this is letting us see how there's a difference between the seasonal signs and the constellations, since Regulus is now at 0 Virgo, and most of the constellation of the lion is overlaid by the seasonal sign of Virgo, bringing in this aspect of the sacred. How do we honor ourselves and the heart energy within each of us as sacred and not more important or less important than anyone else? This is such a great opportunity, and it's just blowing my mind in such a great way to be thinking about this full moon. So if you can be with the full moon rising on the night of the 12th, or if you can see the full moon setting in the morning of the 12th, you might not see Regulus when it's setting, because Regulus, well, I guess Regulus is above the moon, but yeah, but it'd have to be fairly dark so for you to be able to see that. But you can definitely probably see it as it's rising up into the sky that night and activating that heart energy.
Yeah, Regulus is such a powerful indicator. It was actually one of the symbols of that as one astrologer used as a turning of a new age with Regulus moving into the sign of Virgo from astrologer Dane Rajar. Um, so it represents a new form for humanity coming through and really connecting us into a greater sovereignty within ourselves and service for the world.
Beautiful. Yay. A
All
little more on
right.
Regulus coming next.
Yes.
So yeah, so here we have a sovereign divine being, um, with the lion standing next to the heart star of the lion. And we could, I know the lion has often been represented as masculine, but we could also say she's feminine. I mean, in the ancient Egyptian culture, Sekhmet was the lion-headed goddess, and she was a powerful, in fact, she's in some stories I have read about her, she goes further back than like Isis and Osiris and some of those gods and goddesses. She goes further back, way back in time. And she has a healing power. She gives birth to well, she's consort with Ptah, and they have a child together, Nefertum, who becomes the a healer, and she's also about healing, helping to heal people. So from the heart, from the place of the heart. So this is a star that has represented royalty, one of the four royal stars, of course, of the ancients. And and really for me, I think of it as the royalty or divinity that's within each of us. We all have that. We're all divine beings. We're all here for a reason. We all chose to be here at this time. And our role is not any more or less significant than anyone else's. Some people just have more of a spotlight on them. And then this star is something that represents great success when, especially when we're practicing forgiveness from the heart. And it helps one release the need for revenge, because revenge does not ever work out in the way that we would like it to necessarily. It's not worth it, not worth our time and our energy. So if we can get to that place of deeper forgiveness for ourselves and each other, wow, this is something this full moon is helping to bring through for us. It's also considered a doorway to the Hall of Records, and similar to what's in the Sphinx, there's many stories about how there's a whole Hall of Records underneath the paw of the Sphinx, but also the Hall of Records that's within our own DNA. So we have that being activated as well at this full moon. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So another thing about this the Lion constellation or star of Regulus is that back at least 7,000 years ago, but even more back in 10,000 BC, 12,000 years ago, the constellation of the Lion was rose at the vernal equinox or the March equinox point, and that was completely aligned with the Sphinx. So the Sphinx is modeled by built by the Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, after the constellation, the Sphinx. So they look to that Sphinx constellation as an inspiration to build that Sphinx. And as Cayelin was talking about, that that there's an ancient knowledge contained either underneath and within ourselves that the Sphinx represents, and the complexities of that knowledge and the sort of the riddle of life, the riddle of the universe, if you will, all contained within us and outside of us in the universe. So there's debate about how old this actual Sphinx is, but based on Grant Hancock's research, which is where this image came from here on the screen, is from the book Fingerprints of the Gods. I recommend you check that out to learn more about this. But it really captured my attention because there is actual physical evidence that this Sphinx is much older than the mainstream Egyptologists share about.
Yes, I love this too. And basically, what you're saying is that so the Sphinx facing east, when the sun was rising in the lion at the
Yes,
equinox, it was like the lions were facing each other. And that's going to happen closer to the September equinox, but it's going to be a while before
yes.
that happens. But yeah, but that can only happen every about 26,000 years, where it's the March equinox or the vernal equinox where they face each other. And then 13,000 years later, it will be at the September equinox. So that's pretty cool. And
And that's kind of like at the halfway point when it reaches the autumnal or the September equinox.
from the
From
origination,
that time,
what we
yeah,
understand is the origination of the
yeah,
Sphinx. Yeah. Yep.
exactly, yeah. All right,
So this is just something
nakshatra.
I have fun. There's 27 nakshatras, and it's based on the movement of the moon over 24 hours. So how fast is the moon moving through the sky? And it's moving about 12 to 15 degrees a day, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. But there's a way that they've divided this all up. And the 27, because it's like 27.3 days for the moon to come back to a starting place. So the moon with Regulus on the full moon on February 12th, and then it'll be like February or I'm sorry, March uh when 12th, when the moon comes back to Regulus. Of the 11th to 12th. It depends on your time zone and where you are, but it's 27.3 days later when that's happening. And the reason it's happening like from March 12th or from February 12th to March 12th is that there are only 28 days in February. Otherwise, it would probably be off by a couple of days, if that makes more sense for people. Anyway, so each of these nakshatras have their own characteristics that have been something that the Vedic astrologers have been looking at for eons of time. And so this is one's called the Magha um, nakshatra, and it's they all have a deity that's associated with them, and this one is Pitrus, or and the Pitrus is the ancestors. So we can call on our ancestors, we can tune into our ancestors at this full moon to really and really for the as the full moon is happening, and then for the whole next day, we can call upon this energy. And it's epitomizing the themes of honor, pride, magnificence, duty, glory, respect for family lineage or heritage, respecting traditions that pursue spiritual growth and are seeking self-realization. Traditions that seek self-realization. So this is something being energized by this full moon as and when the moon is full in a specific nakshatra, it's illuminating it in the strongest way possible for the whole entire year. So that's pretty cool to have that going on and just adding to our understanding of what's happening with this full moon.
Yeah,
Anything?
these nakshatras give an extra layer to the meaning of things that when we look at various alignments of the planets and aspects, and even in our own chart. we could also add this to what we experience with our charts and see and tune into it, see how we feel as we tune into the particular nakshatras. So thank
Okay.
you. Yeah. And did you mention the crown symbol?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's this the symbol for this nakshatra is the crown. So, and the thing to keep in mind is that the stars don't move. The seasonal signs move over the constellations. So the 24 Leo to 7 Virgo is the seasonal sign of this nakshatra, and it's over the head of the lion, but it includes the heart of the lion, the Regulus star as well.
Mm, yes, yes. It's pretty apropos for this full moon to have a crown.
So how are we wearing our crown? Literally or
Yeah,
figuratively. So, yep.
exactly.
So next,
Uh,
here we go.
all
Okay,
right.
here we have some of the things that are happening around this full moon and to the next full moon. So maybe we can just switch off with them, Eric. On so we've already talked about what we haven't talked about was a couple days before the full moon, Mercury was square Uranus. And then it's conjunct the sun, very closely conjunct the sun at the full moon. So the messenger is very prominent and present for this full moon. And then Mercury will enter Pisces on February 14th. And so it's going to begin sending messages that have to do with how do we tune into greater love, how do we heal our hearts, because this is all about the heart energy. And then of course we'll see later, but Mercury's going to go retrograde in March, right after the full moon. So um, then Sun's going to enter Pisces. You want to take that one, Eric?
Yeah, so Sun enters Pisces, the season of Pisces, until they'll be there until the March equinox next month. And so that's gonna this is building up toward the eclipse season, along with a really powerful March and April for the world, for humanity, with the massive collection of planets and points in Pisces, the signs of Pisces and Aries. Uh, and then, of course, we talked about the out of bounds Mars stationing direct at 17 degrees Cancer. It'll be trining Mercury at that time. Cayelin, do you want to take the next couple?
Well, yeah, and also just to say that Mercury enters Pisces on February 14th, Valentine's Day. So all about the heart energy. And the
Yes,
sun is following. So the sun and Mercury are still very close. It's just my whole point. So if we think of the
yes.
sun as source energy, Mercury is sourcing new messages for us from the Piscean realm of the heart and how we help and heal our hearts and we help and heal the world. So then we have Mercury conjunct Saturn in Pisces on the 25th, and on the 27th we'll have the Pisces new moon. And it's going to be in the constellation of the water bear, but also approaching Saturn. The new moon won't be exact with Saturn, but it will catch up to Saturn shortly after the new moon. So pretty amazing events that are continuing past this full moon. And then I'll let you start with the March 1st piece.
Yeah, so then it leads us to March with Venus stationed retrograde for the first time in about 19 months, conjuncting the moon at 11 Aries also. So as it stations retrograde, the moon will be there. And so the moon is, you can see the moon playing such a powerful role in a lot of these alignments here that we're talking about. And of course, the moon will play an incredible role in during the eclipse season. So yeah, Venus is transitioning. It's entering into her metamorphic stage soon after that, as she retrogrades back toward the sun in and then after the sun moves into Aries, she has her conjunction with the sun and so forth. So she's at the sort of the apex of her journey before she goes back and wants to go through her transformation. Um, then the planet Mercury will conjunct the North Node on the same day at 2724 Pisces. This is the first of three conjunctions with the North Node. I think Venus also has three conjunctions with the North Node too, right? Yes. And then so yeah, that this is part of the strong activity and how, like, if we want to look at this, like the North Node is playing such a pivotal role also in these alignments because it represents our connection to humanity's higher self or future self, what we can loosely call destiny. What do we want to envision and open up toward for our future? And the fact that this February 12th full moon has a lot to do with envisioning for our future. That's important for us to connect into that energy. Mercury, as you mentioned, the source of transmission that comes through. What messages do we want to maybe give ourselves and give others, and get out there into the world to forge ahead of what we want particularly through the feeling function, heart and compassion and providing safe space for humanity.
Beautiful. And yeah, so Mercury conjunct the North Node, Mercury conjunct Neptune, Mercury going into Aries, like boom, boom, boom,
Yes.
one right after the other. So
Oh
Mercury
yeah, I
has,
forgot. Yeah, Neptune's in there. Go ahead.
yeah. And then Mercury's going to go retrograde on the day of the total lunar eclipse. Just throwing that out there. We'll follow up more on this in the coming video on what's going on. And then Mercury's going to conjunct Venus on March 11th. Um, and then Sun will conjunct Saturn on March 12th, and then we're going to have the total lunar eclipse, uh, Virgo full moon on March 14th, which also happens to be Pi Day, just saying. A lot of people geek out on that. It's like the number of pi, 314, 3.14 pi. Anyway,
Yes.
so there's a lot of things that are happening between as we go through this full moon and then go to the next full moon. So just to keep these in mind and to recognize that we're in an unprecedented time. The other thing is that all this Aries Pisces is really going to start activating even more in March and April, the dance between Aries Pisces, the Alpha and Omega. And that's something that we'll talk about more too in the next video. So I think I just want to quickly show the last slide so people can get
Yeah, just to
excited.
also clarify that we will start seeing the eclipse on depending on what uh, coast you're on the 13th, and for some it's the 14th. So it'll be in the middle of it'll be late at night on the 13th, going into the middle of the night into the early morning, the 14th. So
You
just
show
to
the next
clarify,
slide, it kind of shows that.
okay, there you go. Thank you. All right, we're good.
March 13, 14, yeah. So, yeah. And the totality will very much be seen in much of North America and South America, and then partial parts of it in other parts of the world. But we'll share more about this as we get towards the that upcoming eclipse. So hopefully this has been inspiring and it's got you excited about some of the things that are going on that you can tune into. And if you can go out and see Venus in the sky, Saturn's also pretty cool to see right now. And then and especially go out and see the full moon, you cannot miss that. So
Yes.
hope everyone has a great full moon experience.
Thank you all for being here, and look forward to next time.
Bye, everyone.